CGTN, China Global Television Network. Live from London, this is The World Today.
Hello, I'm Robin Dwyer. Welcome to the programme. Our top stories. President Putin accuses the West of trying to destroy his country and says the Ukraine war is a battle for Russia's survival. Claim and counterclaim in eastern Ukraine. Russia says it's captured more territory. Kyiv says Russian attacks have failed. On the cusp of a deal, the UK and the EU inch closer to securing a new post-Brexit trade agreement over Northern Ireland. And Nigerians continue to cast their votes in some areas, with first results in its presidential elections expected today. President Vladimir Putin has accused the West of trying to destroy Russia. In a televised interview, he said NATO wanted to divide up the country and take control of Russia's natural resources. NATO and the West have rejected the accusations, saying their aim is to help Ukraine defend itself. Ukraine's foreign minister, meanwhile, says Kyiv won't rest until all Russian soldiers have left the country. Our correspondent, Will Denslow, is in the Ukrainian capital.
After a meeting with the director of the Institute for the Study of War, Dmytro Kuleba, said that the think tank believes that they're convinced of Ukraine's victory. We've also heard from Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, marking what he says is 9 years since the start of Russian aggression in Crimea. He says that our land, our people, our history will return to Ukraine. Now, of course, fierce fighting continues, Robert, in the east of the country. The Russian Wagner paramilitary group says it has claimed another village near the besieged city of Bakhmut. Ukrainian forces, though, say they continue to fight and continue to hold on to that strategically important city. Robin?
And will Ukraine feared that there would be a barrage of missile attacks on the anniversary of the start of the conflict. Did that happen?
Well, Robin, it didn't quite transpire that way. Officials had warned people that there would be an increase in missile attacks. Schools, for example, here in Kyiv were switched to remote learning because of the threat. It didn't ultimately transpire. Ukrainian officials said that because Ukraine was ready for it, maybe Russia would choose another day. But of course, the threat very much remains, with many here in Ukraine turning to technology in a bid to stay safe from Russian rockets. An unwelcome soundtrack for the city. People's daily lives punctuated by the threat of Russian missiles. Air alerts here in Kyiv are sometimes triggered multiple times a day. Mobile technology is helping to notify people of the threat so they can seek shelter.
I usually use the air alert map in the app because it's quick and you can see how intense the alert will be and how long it will last.
Currently, there are problems with the fact that sometimes we don't have a proper power supply in the city. Thus, there is no reception, so the notification may not come. But it's cool that we have apps like this.
Many residents relocate to Kyiv's subway system during air alerts. It boasts the deepest station in the world. As well as having metro stations like this for shelter, Kyiv also has air alert systems on the city streets. But for those living in rural areas, having alerts on your phone can be even more important. Ajax Systems has been making security technology products since 2011. When the war escalated a year ago, they got to work on an app that sends air alerts directly to roughly 15 million people who have downloaded it. Ajax works with Ukraine's Ministry of Digital Transformation to get information to the public. And actor Mark Hamill has returned as Luke Skywalker to record the app's English language version.
May the Force be with you.
The most important thing is to get feedback
from real people that say that this app saves their lives. And we have such feedback both from civils and from army people.
Kyiv's government updated its app just days after the military conflict began last February. Kyiv Digital offers a range of services, from paying for parking and public transit tickets to receiving air alerts and information on where to find shelter from missile strikes. The city's deputy mayor says speed is a priority.
You have to get dressed and get to the shelter, which is already 3 to 5 minutes. So if a person receives a delayed notification or doesn't hear the speaker from the street, we can lose a life.
For many residents, these apps have become essential, but the hope is the threat of attack will end and they can be deleted as soon as possible. And to give you a little perspective on how often these kind of apps are used, Vitaly Klitschko, the mayor of Kyiv, says that air alerts were triggered over 600 times in the past year.
Will Denslow reporting from Kyiv. 6 months after Russian forces left Izium in northeastern Ukraine, residents and businesses are counting the cost of rebuilding their lives. Some estimates suggest as much as $2 billion could be needed to repair the damage and restore the city. Our correspondent Yolo Abdavid reports.
The mechanics are getting busier. More vehicles need repairs during the winter. 6 months ago, almost everything in Anatoly Shitkov's business had been stripped and stolen. He videoed how his shop and garage were emptied and how much work he's doing to rebuild his business.
We have suppliers who have been our partners for a long time. They gave us new goods to sell with deferred payments. That's how we are helped. But it's also difficult because many people have left, including our clients. But you need to work, and we hope that they will start to come back.
He estimates the conflict cost him $400,000 in damage. But businesses like his will strengthen Izium's local economy. On the main square, the hospital, a school and the municipality offices were bombed. The local authority has the unenviable task of prioritizing what to do first.
I think we need several $1 billion because in addition to residential apartment buildings, the infrastructure is also destroyed, including primary and nursery schools, as well as heating stations. I don't think that it will be less than $2 billion.
New homes will be needed across the region. On the outskirts, the village of Kamenka used to have 450 houses and 1,200 residents. Just 11 people live here now. For the elderly especially, food is scarce, as is the ability to buy goods in shops and cook in their own homes. Volunteers share free hot dogs and coffee for those in need.
The whole city centre is broken and everyone in this area lives without heating. Nothing's been done because the heating stations are broken and we live without warmth.
They bring humanitarian aid. We have a volunteer canteen where you can have lunch once a day. One day it's a meat dish, the next day porridge or soup. We're being given a little humanitarian aid.
The scars from the military occupation of the town go much deeper than the damage to its buildings. Maxim Maximov says he was picked up and tortured for 6 days. He says returning to the kind of normality that existed in Izium before the conflict will take time.
If we have peace, things will improve. We should experience a more peaceful life. It won't happen immediately. I have friends who have arrived back from abroad and they returned with their families. But they still can't adapt.
Hundreds of millions of dollars are needed to repair and rejuvenate this city alone. The local authorities say they're still assessing the costs, and financial help will be expected from the Ukrainian government too. But just how much investment can be made at a time when the country is spending so much on its own defence? Yolo Abdavid, CGTN, Izium, Ukraine.
The Russian attack on Ukraine has forced millions to flee the country, leaving their old lives behind. For those who have managed to escape, shelter and safety have been found in countries across Europe. Our correspondent Alyosha Milenkovic reports from Bulgaria.
People in Bulgaria's second-largest city, Plovdiv, enjoy beautiful February sunshine. These two travelers from Colombia entertained them by playing and singing songs in Ukrainian, making this woman, apparently from the west of Ukraine, particularly happy.
Over 500,000 refugees from Ukraine came to Bulgaria just in last year. Tens of thousands decided to stay here and try to rebuild their lives. The local communities jumped in to help.
This old Soviet-style building was once a hospital here in Plovdiv. After being abandoned for decades, the local authorities lent it as a temporary shelter for Ukrainian refugees. Thanks to the amazing around-the-clock work of this woman, it is now a livable place, full of life. She's putting in a lot of work and getting a lot of help from the locals to support people like Mariana and her 8-year-old daughter, who just moved from Western Ukraine.
I don't feel that I am in a foreign country. When I came here, I thought that people would be suspicious of us. In fact, everyone, starting from the capital to a small city of Plovdiv, greeted us warmly, gave us directions and helped with everything. It feels like we just moved from one city to another in Ukraine.
With the help of the local volunteers, many activities are available in the center, including Bulgarian language classes, martial arts training for the children, dancing classes, and many others.
I like to be here. Everything is very good, and I like the kids here. And the only thing I don't have here is Wi-Fi, but the rest, I like it. And we can stay here until we have a new home.
According to Nata, many of the refugees are considering staying in Bulgaria for good, as the country is welcoming them with open arms.
At September, when the educational year started, only 10% of kids went to Bulgarian schools, offline education. Now 70% of kids attend Bulgarian schools. The same will happen with people here. If they will find good job, good place, good school for kids, and good environment, for sure they will stay. Maybe not forever, but for years.
As Bulgaria itself faces an unprecedented demographic decline, many here welcome the arrival of refugees from Ukraine, hoping to fill the population gap. Aljosha Milenkovic, CGTN, Plovdiv.
You're watching CGTN. Still ahead. The UK Prime Minister says he's giving it everything this weekend to secure a new post-Brexit deal with the EU over Northern Ireland.
Ever wondered what's the difference between a bear and a bull market? Where are the cash cows? And who are the lame ducks? And what exactly are black swans? Grey rhinos? And unicorn companies? Make sense of it all with Global Business, only on CGTN.
There's a new agenda for a new world, accelerating change in almost every part of our lives. It's shifting the norms of how we work, travel, and connect. How we think, interact, and develop. It's a new reality, a new agenda with me, Juliet Mann.
Welcome back. A reminder of our headlines. President Putin accuses the West of trying to destroy his country and says the Ukraine war is a battle for Russia's survival. And claim and counterclaim in eastern Ukraine. Russia says it's captured more territory. Kyiv says Russian attacks have failed. The UK looks to be on the cusp of a deal with the European Union to resolve problems with post-Brexit trading rules for Northern Ireland. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he is giving it everything to get a deal done this weekend. Well, let's talk now to our correspondent Ollie Barrett in London. So Ollie reports that a deal could be imminent. Where are we right now?
That's right. Multiple reports here in the UK, but also in Irish media too, that there could be an announcement of some sort imminent from London and Brussels. We don't know whether that is going to be another update, that progress is being made with a view to an announcement in the week ahead, or whether indeed we might hear as soon as Sunday that a deal has been struck between London and Brussels. All sorts of uncertainties therefore remain, but earlier the Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab was sounding optimistic.
If we can get it over the line, we're on the cusp, we've made great progress, we're not there yet, but it would be a really important deal, and just critically, a deal that, with all the best will in the world and for all the progress that others have made, that no Prime Minister before had been able to secure. So yes, I think it would mark a paradigm shift, first and foremost for the communities in Northern Ireland, but I think it would be a significant achievement.
One thing we do know is that Conservative and Labour MPs are being told to be at Parliament early-ish on Monday if they can be, and that is giving rise to further speculation that it might well be that Parliament sees some kind of announcement of a deal between London and Brussels on Monday itself. But as we keep being told by negotiators and officials close to these talks, until there is a deal, there isn't one.
So if or when a deal is reached on this, what happens next?
Well, part of that will relate to Westminster and the House of Commons and MPs and lawmakers in London. What we don't know exactly is what that will look like. We had Dominic Raab, the Deputy Prime Minister, asked earlier today whether Parliament would get a vote on any deal that is reached between the UK and the European Union. He would only say that Parliament will find a way to have its say, which is quite similar to what Rishi Sunak was saying last week when he was asked that particular question. He would only say Parliament will express its views, so that's giving rise to speculation that the government might be planning not to actually hold a vote if this arrangement doesn't require any fresh legislation, but just to allow a debate in Parliament, and that would be a very controversial decision. Many MPs will think that the scrutiny required for an arrangement like this would necessitate an actual vote in Parliament rather than just a debate on the topic. And then a lot of the focus would also be on Northern Ireland. If and when a deal has been announced between London and Brussels, has London been able to reach a deal that it can sell to political parties in Northern Ireland, notably the Unionist Party, the DUP, which wants Northern Ireland to remain part of the United Kingdom and has been very angry about the effect so far of the Northern Ireland Protocol. So even if and when we get to that point when London and Brussels say that they have reached an agreement between the UK and the European Union, it's certainly not all over then.
Ollie, thank you very much. Our correspondent, Ollie Barrett. More than 80,000 people are set to attend this year's Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Regulators, tech executives and innovators are all expected to be at the world's largest telecoms conference this week. Well, our correspondent Ken Brown is in Barcelona for this event. So, Ken, what are we expecting this year?
Well, yes, Robin, as you say, over 80,000 people expected here, over 2,300 exhibitors from over 200 countries. We're going to be talking metaverse, multiverse, XR, AI, ChatGPT, and luckily I've got someone here with me who understands what all those letters mean. John Hoffman is from GSMA Limited. They're the people who run the Mobile World Congress. So, John, tell us, thank you for being here with us, first of all.
Well, thank you for having me. It's really exciting.
So tell us, what have we got to look forward to this week? What will really capture the attention in terms of the technology?
Well, under the theme of velocity, the speed of change in our industry is faster than ever. The adoption of 5G around the world is the fastest G in history. So what we're going to find is, now what does that mean for the digital transformation? AI, IoT, big data is all coming together, and we're here to learn about it. The excitement in the city is phenomenal. Obviously, you know, we were the first to cancel, we were the first to come back, and we've been building. It's just like pre-pandemic times, and we're thrilled to be here.
Fantastic. I mean, we've seen so many incredible things in terms of 6G, you know, vertical takeoff taxis, artificial intelligence in the classroom. What really excites you?
So we have a couple things. So we've got our Industry City, where we're going to talk about fintech, Industry 4.0, how the digital transformation is really impacting with 5G. So that's one area not to miss. Obviously, all of our keynotes, the topics that are going to be discussed, everything from regulatory environments to new product launches. Our ministerial program, largest delegations from around the world we've ever had before. So the ministers, policymakers are going to get together and discuss how do they regulate in this new environment, and then, you know, everything in between. So startups 4 years from now, all the way to big companies in the sector like Ericsson, Huawei, Nokia, Samsung. They're all going to be here, and man, it's going to be a great 4 days.
I mean, we're talking about technology on a global, that has a huge global reach, a big global impact. I was reading about 6G and how it can help with UN sustainable goals. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how connectedness is going to help bring the planet together a little more?
Well, you know, sustainability has been one of our focus areas for many years. We've been a carbon neutral event for the last 8 years. We've been recognized by Guinness as the largest carbon neutral trade event in the world 4 times. It's in our DNA. It's our DNA, and the UN sustainable goals are something that the industry has embraced. We've been a vector breakthrough sector, and we're leading the way. Science-based targets. It's everything from clean water, from education to equality, for gender equality, as well as every one of the SDGs. So it's at the show. It's going to be on all the stands. It's going to be talked about. It's a major focus of MWC 23.
Fantastic. And of course, there's a strong Chinese presence here. Can you tell us what we're looking forward to from companies like ZTE, like Huawei, like Xiaomi? And also looking ahead to Shanghai, where there's another big event coming up, right?
Yeah. Well, let's start with the operators. For the first time in 3 years, the 3 Chinese operators, China Mobile, China Unicom, China Telecom, are all here. Huge delegations from China. We've got, as you said, Huawei, 50% bigger than they were last year. ZTE, Oppo, it's just all of the companies are here talking about what's new in China. China has the largest 5G adoption, the most base stations, the largest customer base. We have great stories to learn from China. The Chinese government is here talking about regulation. They participate in the ministerial program. We expect between 4,000 and maybe 6,000 folks from China this year. Phenomenal.
Thank you so much for speaking with us, John. A lot to look forward to this week. Stay with us on CGTN. So much more to come from Barcelona. Ken Brown, we'll talk to you soon.
Ken, thank you very much. Our correspondent Ken Brown in Barcelona. Vote counting is underway in Nigeria's presidential election. Polls opened on Saturday to decide who will succeed President Muhammadu Buhari. Although voting has been mostly peaceful, there have been some disruptions at polling stations in Lagos State. But some who have been able to cast their ballots were pleased that they could vote.
I've actually voted. Yeah. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it.
I voted. You can see from my thumb. It was a great experience, really, being part of the electoral process.
Then you should know that the expectation is a new Nigeria.
58 people have died after a boat carrying migrants sank off the southern coast of Italy. The ship is said to have broken apart while trying to land in the Calabria region. 81 people are known to have survived, and a rescue operation is still underway. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has expressed deep sorrow for the tragedy and pledged to stop migration on small boats. A further 184 people have been arrested in Turkey over buildings that collapsed in this month's earthquakes. More than 600 people, including construction contractors and property owners, have now been investigated over the 160,000 buildings that fell down or were damaged in the quakes on the 6th of February. More than 50,000 people were killed in the earthquakes, which also affected northern Syria. The European Union's Ursula von der Leyen and Charles Michel may travel to China this year. Preparations are underway for the official visit, which is expected in the first half of 2023. China's ambassador to the EU says frequent visits between the EU and China should begin soon. He also said he didn't want ties between the two sides to be affected by differing positions on the conflict in Ukraine. 2 Israelis have been shot dead in the occupied West Bank town of Hawara. Israeli officials say a Palestinian gunman in a moving vehicle killed the Jewish settlers in their car. The Israeli military said it was pursuing the gunman. It comes as Israeli and Palestinian security officials met in Jordan to discuss ways of reducing tensions and confirmed they will meet again next month. There's a shortage of doctors in the United States, and it's expected to get worse over the next decade. One of the biggest challenges is finding physicians for rural areas. Our correspondent Mark New reports.
In California's rural Central Valley, finding a doctor can be a challenge for some patients. There are about 45 doctors per 100,000 residents, which is 55% less than in many metropolitan areas just a few hours away.
What we're seeing nationally as well as in California is there's a huge shortage of primary care physicians. I think the reason that matters is we know that the more primary care physicians there are, the longer people live in that community.
Dr. Tanya Fancher has helped develop a program at the University of California Davis Medical Center in Sacramento called REACH. It identifies potential students who are willing to relocate to underserved areas to train for an entire year.
We all look for the best and brightest, right? The next Nobel laureate in medicine. But what we haven't always done is look for the students who are going to return to care in the areas that are needed. The more we can create clear pathways for students to return to the areas of need, I think that that's what we have to do.
Medical student Benjamin Vincent is from the small rural town of Modesto, California. Through REACH, he returned as a medical resident to treat a community he knows well.
The smile it puts on their face to know that, hey, one, you're from here, and two, I know you at a personal level. I think it already builds a sense of trust, and it kind of allows you to do your job as a physician much more efficiently, and it just makes it more meaningful, everything you do. You know, you wake up excited to go to work and to learn something new because you know it's not just going to help people, but it's helping, you know, family, friends, people who you truly care about.
Vincent eventually plans to work permanently in California's Central Valley. He's also helped run an empowerment conference, helping minorities pursue medicine despite the obstacles.
Individuals who have parents who are maybe migrant farm workers, and they're now the ones for their generation who get to go out and do something for their family. And so we would have sessions for their parents to say, hey, I understand that this is going to cost a lot of money. It's not going to get done in a year, but at the end of this, it's going to not only change your child's life, but it can change your family's life.
There are other programs here at UC Davis Health in Sacramento that are addressing the doctor shortage in different ways. A program called Accelerated Competency-Based Education in Primary Care is essentially speeding up the process of becoming a doctor.
While taking no summers off, the group of students completes medical training in 3 years instead of the customary 4.
So if we can shave off 1 year of tuition and help these students get into the workforce sooner, it's just better for everybody.
Despite the extra workload, the students, Fancher says, have a higher than average morale. The belief is that when a program properly aligns with their mission, the benefits are felt by both doctor and community. Mark New, CGTN, Sacramento, California.
Our headlines again. President Putin accuses the West of trying to destroy his country and says the Ukraine war is a battle for Russia's survival. Claim and counterclaim in eastern Ukraine. Russia says it's captured more territory. Kyiv says Russian attacks have failed. And on the cusp of a deal, the UK and the EU inch closer to securing a new post-Brexit trade agreement over Northern Ireland. And that is the world today. Thanks for watching. There's more news at the top of the hour. Coming up next, it's Razor. For now, from all of the team here in London, goodbye.